Ahoy folks, and welcome back to Broadside Gaming with me, Zug. So, it's been a couple of weeks since the Pickaxes came out for the Ogryn. It's a nice amount of time for everyone to be trying them out, testing new blessings, like farming up the actual blessings themselves. And I thought we'd have a bit of a chat about it. And I thought I'd talk about some things that I've seen quite a lot of people doing, but it's a little bit of a pitfall. And what that is this. So, there's three different kinds, as we all know. There's the fastest one, the Carsolus. There's the medium one, which is the Borvorian, or the Bovine. Its preferred name. And then you've got the big heavy hitter, which is the Branks. Now, as you can see, with the Branks, it is a real heavy hitting weapon. Almost 800 damage on the heavy attack. And if you look at the blessings, this is what a lot of people are going for, which is thrust and limb splitter. And at first glance, you think this is going to be really good because you get 60% power from thrust, another 60% from limb splitter, and if you take the magical talent point, which is crunch, we'll just dump a point out somewhere for that. There we go. If you take crunch, that's another 40% damage. So you are hitting like an absolute tank on that first hit. But that's the problem. It's on that first hit. So we wind up the attack. 1, 2, 3. And yeah, you can absolutely cripple the crusher. Every single time. This is even without heavy hitter being at maximum stacks. But the problem with this sort of build is not only do you have to hold it the entire duration to get crunch, you have to wait for the 3.5 seconds for limb splitter to come back, which means during heavy fights, and I mean damnation with affixes, you're actually losing quite a bit of damage because you don't have that time. Thank you, Sophoni. You don't have that huge amount of time to wind up every single attack to be able to get that huge amount of damage. Now, I'm not saying this is completely unusable, because obviously it is. It is very usable, but it's not optimal. It's a lot like the Zealot's Thunderhammer thrust build. You are absolutely goddamn amazing at taking out monstrosities and crushers, but you kind of fail slightly at everything else. So I'm not saying don't take this, because obviously if this is what you want to play and this is how you want to play it, go for it. Your character, your way of playing it. If that's what makes it fun for you, then by all means do it. I mean, if you want to go absolutely crazy with this thing, you take thrust, you take limb splitter, perk wise you take carapace and unyielding, and you are a goddamn monster hunter. And you don't forget to take crunch, as that is what's going to help as well. You are getting 120, 160% extra damage from these two blessings and one ability. Not to mention all your heavy hitter stuff and Furious and the best defense, and also not forgetting payback time, which gives you a 20% damage boost just by getting hit, which you will a lot. So yeah, you are an absolute monster with this build, but if you want consistency, I would suggest something more like this, perhaps. Head Taker and Slaughterer. You know, it's not big, crazy numbers, but, and this is all on also on the Carsolus, which means the damage is going to be lower anyway, but you do build up consistent damage with Head Taker, with Slaughterer, which means you can take on hordes, especially mixed hordes, with maulers and crushers and bulwarks inside of them, and you're also having that consistent damage on the hordes. And you don't have to wind up your attacks to max every time, which is one of the problems. That is the major problem to that setup, is that you have to hold out until then. And in that time, you're going to get dinged up a bit. On lower difficulty maps, it's not so much of a problem because you can shrug off the chip damage.
You should watch though.
But as you're getting to higher difficulties, you're doing Uruk, you're doing Maelstrom, I would even suggest something like this. Obviously, please ignore the sprint efficiency. It got stuck on there, can't do anything about it. But blessings-wise, Confident Strikes Slaughterer with Flak and preferably Maniac on something like the Carsolus is nice, consistent damage with toughness regeneration, so that when you're in the middle of a fight and you are going to be getting hit, there is no way to avoid it. You are farming back your toughness with very quick, very reliable sweeps, and you're keeping that Slaughterer buff at 5 stacks at all times, along with Heavy Hitter and all the other little buffs that you're getting along with your skill tree. For example, Furious, for each enemy hit during the same heavy attack, again 2.5 damage. Then you've got the best defense, replenishing toughness, which is what we're doing. Heavy attacks, we're farming that toughness back. We're also getting it back with the Confident Strike. And we don't have to be so locked into holding that attack for so long for crunch to proc, so that we can dump a point from that and put it in brutish momentum if you wanted to, which also frees up your playstyle so that you can get your 5 stacks of Heavy Hitter. But if things get sketchy, you can just go straight into light attacks and know that that buff is still there when you need to bring back those heavy hits. And with a combination like this, when you do need to jump into light attacks, because you won't be able to heavy attack all the time, it's just not feasible. With Confident Strikes and Slaughterer, you're not getting the heavy attack toughness back from the skill tree, but you are getting it back from Confident Strikes when you're chaining those hits. So, you know, it really depends on how you want to play it, and it depends what pick you want. I am a big fan of the Carsolus. It's got a really nice attack pattern. You know, the Branks is absolutely amazing. I love it for just doing nasty damage. But then you got the Bavorian, or the Bovine. For me, bit of a weird one. The attack pattern, it just seems to be an awkward combination of the Carsolus and the Branks. But it's not bad. It's not bad at all. It just takes a bit more getting used to.
Nasty piece of work, that one.
But it does give you some nice sweeps, but also overhead heavy strikes. Again, this one at the moment has got Slaughtering. Oh, this one's actually got Slaughter and Confident Strikes on. You can go Head Taker and Slaughterer, quite a nice combination, or you can go Slaughterer and Thrust. I'm not saying not to take Thrust, because it is a really good ability, especially if you're winding up those attacks, but it's all about finding that sweet spot when you're playing. Are you going to have enough time to wind up those attacks every single time? And if you're not, how much damage are you actually losing throughout a fight? But if you take say, for example, Head Taker and Slaughterer, instead of Thrust and Limb Splitter or some of the others, it may only be a small boost, so 25% damage on that, and I don't know, 8 times 5, my maths is terrible, 40 something. With that, you're getting lower, but a lot more consistent damage. Oh, 40 is 40, okay, cool. So 65% damage with these two, as opposed to 160 if you were to take Thrust, Limb Splitter, and Crunch. But you're able to do this for the entirety of the match. When you are swinging, you have these buffs. But then, again, as I said, do you want to lose one of them for Confident Strikes to give you a consistent regen of chip damage? You know, it's just, there isn't a right or wrong answer to this. It is totally down to how you prefer to play and what level you're playing on. Obviously, if you are not playing on Damnation or Maelstrom consistently, like that's all you ever play, you don't need to build so much for toughness. If you're playing on, I don't know, Malice, even if you're playing on Sedition, it doesn't matter what level you play on. You know, if you're having fun and playing, who cares? You know, play the game how you want to play it. This is more me just sort of thinking through combinations of blessings and what would make more sense where. So, and also like buffs like Thunderous. I don't think I've actually got one with Thunderous on it anymore. Actually, I should do somewhere. Oh, there we go, Thunderous. It's a good ability. I mean, it's not quite as good as Head Taker or Slaughterer, but it is putting down 20% brittleness on a target. So your first strike isn't going to be as strong, but your second one is going to be a lot stronger. And also it buffs everyone else's damage on that target, because brittleness is just rending but applied to the target, whereas rending is only damage you do. Brittleness then debuffs the target to have 20% rending damage done to it. It's basically how it works. It is more complicated than that, but I mean, basically that is how brittleness and rending work. So, you know, it's up to that. And I also think Wrath is another one, and All or Nothing actually, these two buffs. I would say that these two blessings are pitfalls, because All or Nothing gives you power when you have no stamina, which is good, but it's also incredibly dangerous to be in positions where you have no stamina, because you're not going to be able to block. Is it worth it? I don't know. Wrath, 40% cleave on hit, stacks 5 times. Yeah, it does give you a lot of nice cleave, but the pickaxes are basically cleave machines anyway, and even the Branks, with its supposedly no cleave, is actually very good at cleaving. You just have to do the same thing you do with the slab shield, which is move your cursor as you're swinging. Let's see if I can get something a bit close together. So you do that, you literally just move your camera through, and it cleaves through like nothing. And also, you got to remember that your push attack, so block, push, attack, is a big old sweep. So the Branks does have a really good cleave to it, it just requires a little bit more effort. So literally just move your camera through. The same way you would with the slab shield. So I would say Wrath is another blessing that you probably don't want to put on your pickaxes. Because the Branks, you just move your camera, and the Carsolus and the Bovine, they have a huge amount of inbuilt cleave. And last but not least, that I want to talk about with the pickaxes, and because I absolutely love them. If you haven't gotten that by now, now you know. I've loved these things when they came out. I was really excited for the Ogryn to have a two-handed weapon finally, and I wasn't disappointed. I know some people were, but I think they're very, very good at what they do, which is just turning the Ogryn into a threshing machine. You can run these in any build, Gunlugger, Protector, or Heavy Hitter, and they work really well. But when you're building these, the one thing you do have to remember is your dump stat. And with every single one of these, your dump stat is defense. You want defense as low as possible. You do not need it. You want damage, you want first target, you want penetration. I mean, you can drop cleave damage slightly, but even then, you don't want to drop it too much. Defense really should be the one that you're trying to get rid of. Because damage, first target, and penetration, they're the real important ones. Cleave damage is important, but not as important as these. So there you go, just some food for thought when it comes to the pickaxes. And if I come up with any other ways that I find is actually better to do, so of course I'll update everyone. But I hope you guys found this interesting. It's just spitballing ideas about the pickaxes. So if you have enjoyed, please like, subscribe, ring that little bell for notifications. It really does help us out. We are on our march to 10,000 subs. Takes a while, but you know, got to aim somewhere. So until the next video, take it easy, and I'll see you later.